The broadcast of this program over Michigan Public Television has been made possible by grants from Michigan State Historic Preservation Office, the Michigan Lighthouse Project, the Michigan Department of Transportation, and the Federal Highway Administration. This is a Michigan Avenue documentary.
Towers of timber, stone, and concrete. Icons that benevolently pierce the night. These are the sentinels that faithfully guard our shores. They are bright beacons that warn of rock and high ground, massive monuments that silently serve the shoreline and guide the maritime wanderer home. Lighthouses have lined our borders for more than 150 years. However, despite their long and unwavering watch, they now face an uncertain future and look to us to endure.
I don't think this is the problem right now.
This is the problem.
It's on the other side.
Problem's over this side.
And I'm not real familiar with this. I didn't look at this real well. I kind of looked at that.
All throughout the state of Michigan, people are gathering to solve a most complex problem. Their task is indeed difficult, but one worthy of the collective energy they display. From a county historical society meeting in a basement hall to the lone civil servant caring for a museum in the wild, these individuals all have one thing in common: a passionate desire to care for their light.
And you can see your mold growth right there. So the water's entrapped, but with this product here, which is greenable.
Partnerships between businesses and nonprofit groups. Individuals and local governments respond with unified resolve.
Sioux St. Marie, a couple of St. Nicholas places. I have a list.
At dining room tables, around pickup trucks, from young people on service projects clearing debris in abandoned rooms, to the retired volunteers spending a Saturday repairing a doorway of an old lightkeeper's home, a rescue is underway. These are the lights of Michigan, bright, bold treasures that have illuminated our shores and forever fashioned the character of our state. 100 years ago, the lights signaled danger to those at sea. Today, they are sounding a different alarm and look to us for safekeeping. These are the lights of Michigan, ours to have and to hold. On a Saturday in midsummer, Marty Pokala navigates his boat across an inland sound. His destination is the East Channel Light on Grand Island off of Munising, Michigan. Though peaceful now, the unforgiving currents of recent Lake Superior storms have pushed the shoreline precariously close to the base of the light. This unique, all-wooden structure, built during the Civil War, is now dangerously close to falling into the sea. Six miles across the island, perched atop a 200-foot cliff overlooking Lake Superior, stands the North Light. Lauren Graham purchased this light 25 years ago from the Cleveland Cliffs Iron Company. With the help of his wife and daughter, the lighthouse was completely restored and now serves as their family residence. These two gentlemen, one a real estate agent in Elgin County, the other an author by trade, share a common calling: Both are intractably dedicated to saving their lights.
You just can't take it on lightly. You either have to be an incredibly industrious person, or you've got to have lots of money. There's no other way. You've got to either do it yourself or pay to have it done. And there's a heavy penalty whichever way it goes. So fixing up an old lighthouse is not to be taken on lightly.
The Alger County Historical Society has its hands full.
There is a way to get the material in there, and the only way, really, the only economical way, is you could haul rock on that barge and back a dump truck up to a wall. If you put in a wall in there and had to backfill it, which you will have to protect it, you could get right up to that with the barge and offload a truckload of rock right behind that cribbing.
Trying to save the lighthouse is a project that involves a lot of volunteers or an individual with a lot of means to do it on his own. But if it's a group like this is, it becomes a volunteer project and requires a lot of different people volunteering their time and funds to put something together to try to do a project like this.
The task of saving the East Channel Light is difficult. Water, wind, and time have taken their toll. But the Alger County Historical Society, along with property owners of the island, recognize the treasure at their coastline and are not to be daunted by this difficult task.
Today is a work crew that's come out to work on a myriad of projects and to evaluate what we need done this summer. We need work on the light tower. There are people coming out to look at the structure and to figure out what we need to do. We're planting flowers for the season, planting some vegetables and fruits for the season. We're working on the life jacket rack, doing all sorts of little projects and planning mostly.
The St. Helene Light was adopted by the Great Lakes Lighthouse Keepers Association in 1986. Restoration continues through today.
We had some products applied last Saturday, and I wanted to verify the adhesion. We need to find out how well our products are performing, we need to know what kind of surface preparation, and which products are going to perform the best.
The sealant seems to be adhering well to the inside windows of the light tower, but the paint on which the sealant has been applied is peeling off.
Adhesion, that paint's going to have to be stripped off completely. We're going to have to get it down to a bare surface. A new coating is going to have to be applied, and then our product will be applied at that time.
The Great Lakes Lighthouse Keepers Association has been quite successful in forming partnerships with significant Michigan companies to preserve the light. In this instance, Dow Corning has donated various products and volunteers to help protect the tower.
We need a product that's breathable, a product that's not going to allow water to be entrapped, because when the water is entrapped, you're getting your mold. What we're seeing here is we're seeing paint failure here. But in this area here, in both cases, the product is sticking very well, and we feel that's going to be a really good solution for the tower.
A successful test this weekend only means more work for the next. At almost the same time as the St. Helene work team was wrapping up its spring cleaning, other volunteers were trekking across Middle Island for a similar assignment. If there is one indispensable ingredient in lighthouse preservation, it is the recruitment of volunteers, and the Middle Island Lighthouse Society has its enthusiastic share.
This association hopes to experience what they experienced back when they were keeping the light. We got 133 members, and of any association, 10% usually is the people that participate, you know. We've been fortunate, we got more than 13 people coming out. We want them to experience the life that these lighthouse keepers had 100 years ago.
Lighthouses are symbols of that special maritime character of the state of Michigan. And in order to emphasize that special character, we need to save these lighthouses. There's no, in my opinion, no contest here or conflict between progress and history. So we need to preserve them or we'll lose them because we're not going to get any new ones.
No one understands the proverb, "The devil is in the details," better than the preservationist. And for the old light at Copper Harbor, it is the detailing of the brick that commands the attention of the DNR tradesmen. Sand from the local shoreline is carefully mixed to match not only the color, but the texture and consistency of the mortar used 150 years ago. Those that would take on the restoration of a light must also accept the call to be faithful to the history that their light represents. The pointer's trowel is now silent. The light stands still against a northern sky as if to again welcome its keeper home. The restoration of the light at Copper Harbor is a classic example of the challenge that awaits many other caretakers throughout the state.
We have a unique opportunity to plan for the future of these lighthouses. So it's incumbent upon all of us to make the right decisions to ensure that these lighthouses are preserved for future generations.
Our best resources, our best geography is along our coasts. Our most significant history started at our coasts. As a state of maritime communities with these wonderful icons, we have a chance to make a statement about how we care for our history.
The Detour Reef Lighthouse Preservation Society arrives at Jerry Feltner's house on Drummond Island for their monthly board meeting. They are an active organization with hundreds of members, some extending beyond state lines. Their task this evening is to continue something that started a long time ago. Because it is grounded on a reef 4 miles from shore, the Detour Reef Light presents some most unusual problems for those who would care for it.
Well, you know, we do have a special situation here with being an offshore lighthouse, which we need to talk to Tom about. And he wants to know what are the special challenges that we have.
We know. Access.
Access, right.
Access to our life.
And really, I think this is a good point as to our grant application with the state of Michigan to develop an exhibit, not only our permanent exhibit at Drummond Island Museum, but also the traveling exhibit. So what we can do is take the lighthouse to the people in that fashion.
Correct.
The challenges facing the society are being overcome one step at a time.
Lighthouses are worth preserving, and although when you start they may appear to be a formidable task, they're not. You just have to do a little each time you get a chance, and the first thing you know, you have the lighthouse preserved. It's an exciting opportunity for a win-win all the way around.
Because modern electrical lights do not require the constant attention of a keeper or the protection of a castle, and the life-saving missions are dispatched and guided by radio transmissions rather than from the visual contact of a lightkeeper, the original purpose of lighthouses has all but vanished. They have succumbed not to violent winds and rain, but to an inevitable progression of technology, forcing Coast Guard officials to look for creative solutions to preservation problems.
We are in the navigational aid business as opposed to the historic preservation business, and we knew that one, we were doing a marginal job of historic preservation. I mean, we're keeping the light structures up, but but barely. We also know that we can't provide the kind of public access that the interest in lighthouses has generated. So we have worked very hard, partnering to preserve is what we call it, working with those people in the historic preservation business from the state of Michigan to private preservation groups to make sure that there's a nice orderly transition so that these lights do go over to people who can and will preserve them. We're serious about our partnering to preserve. We want to do all that we can to have a nice, orderly, orchestrated transition of ownership of these properties over to the folks that are going to cherish them for into antiquity.
The light at Escanaba is one such light whose ownership has successfully passed from the Coast Guard to a local organization, in this case, the Delta County Historical Society. Today, the light stands secure as a public museum and historical resource center for the Escanaba community.
The wall follows the concrete.
We came on the project to stabilize the foundation at Harbor Beach. The project consisted of the stabilization with sheet pile filled with stone and rock. Then we had some repointing of the brick to do, which was some restoration work, which took a while. But the end result looks pretty nice.
This recent construction work, a cooperative effort between the Coast Guard and the local community, is expected to keep the light secure for another 50 years.
Yes, Laura? Hi, it's Nellie Ross from Chris Point. How you doing? I'm doing fine. I need to order some more t-shirts. Okay, I'll wait.
Nellie Ross is on the phone a lot. If she's not ordering t-shirts for fundraising, she's coordinating a sandbag party to stave off erosion, or talking to a reporter from the Detroit Free Press about the latest winter storm. She is indeed a woman with a mission.
In 1996, in a winter gale in November, the entrance building that's attached to the tower was taken by Lake Superior. Erosion was within like 3 feet of this lighthouse. So we had to really work quick and try to get as much help as we could quickly for erosion. Because no matter what the issues were with the lighthouse, if we couldn't stop that erosion, we'd lose it, or right off the bat.
That the light is still standing at all is somewhat of a miracle. Wrought not simply by fate, but by the resolve of a band of volunteers who were able to raise the funds to build a retaining wall and hold back the relentless waves of Lake Superior.
We know and have enough respect for the lake now to know that that's something that we're going to have to address for quite a while and get that taken care of. But we know now that it can be done, and with a lot of help and perseverance, it can be done.
Nellie got her rock, all 40 tons of it, and the light now has a new outlook on the sea because of the generosity of a general contractor, several Native American Indian tribes, countless volunteers, and the persistence of one woman called Nellie. The task of lighthouse preservation is much more complex than just dealing with erosion. Problems of asbestos removal, legal complexities of bottomland restrictions, and even environmental impact concerns can frustrate the would-be restorer.
Many of the natural values that we find in some of these areas that are being protected can, of course, be compromised if there is too large an intrusion by human visitation. So if there is going to be visitation allowed in some of these natural areas that are protected by the Nature Conservancy and many of our partner conservation organizations, it's important that the traffic, the pedestrian traffic and the visitation that takes place in those areas where they won't compromise the natural values.
Who would have known that the species of plants that surrounded Point Betsy were as endangered as the light itself?
As long as the visitation takes place right along the shoreline, and as long as it's relatively localized and doesn't start to intrude on some of the areas where some of the rare plants exist, there isn't any conflict between the human and the natural dynamic.
The challenge now becomes to balance the desire to open the light to the public with the need to preserve the natural environment surrounding it. It can be done.
The Coast Guard must, by federal law, turn over environmentally clean sites. That means getting an environmental survey of the sites so that they know what has to be done to clean them up first. That takes money and staff that may not be there. We also learned that once that's been done, as long as there's a Coast Guard plan to clean it, the turnover could happen before that was completely implemented. So,
the Michigan Lighthouse Project is a high-level collaboration between federal and state agencies and citizens groups to help transfer the decommissioned lights into the proper hands.
In some cases that would be a nonprofit organization, in some cases it would be private hands, in other cases probably it will be some sort of a cooperative effort between a local county government and a nonprofit organization. We've gotten a corporate sponsorship. I think that we can find the funding support to give seed grants to these groups that have identified themselves and who are willing to do the hard work that we all want them to do. We all want to look at these things, but we can't individually save them all. We need to help those people who have a commitment to those lighthouses, and finances will be a part of that.
Michigan is indeed at a watershed moment for preserving these state treasures. They represent not only an irreplaceable piece of our history, but also an irresistible attraction for the traveling public. People come from all around the world just to stand in awe of them. Several times a year, the Scouts of Troop 323 camp out on Round Island just off Mackinac City. They come to work on the light as an ongoing service project for their community. Their persistence has led them to feel that this is their light, and they are bound and determined, in their words, to fix it up. The real value of these campouts is much more than the restoration work that takes place. It is the building of a new generation of caregivers who, through youthful and enthusiastic eyes, are coming to see these lights for the treasures they really are.
Today we are celebrating the future of our beautiful lighthouses, and because of the memorandum of agreement that we are going to be signing here in just a moment, and thanks to our partnership with the Michigan Lighthouse Project, we are really sending a message to the entire state and all across the nation as well that Michigan lighthouses have a future, and it is a very, very bright one.
Secretary Miller, Admiral Hull, Mr. Pauley, and Mr. Hansen are actually signing a memorandum of understanding between the four corner organizations in the Michigan Lighthouse Project, the state of Michigan, the U.S. Coast Guard.
The journey has begun. An unspeakable amount of time and energy lies ahead for those who would dare to restore one of these lights. The challenge is difficult. The rewards, though, are immense. These are the lights of Michigan, ours to have and to hold.
The future of Michigan lighthouses is certainly a bright one and getting brighter. And if we can preserve these wonderful historic treasures, certainly that will be a beacon to us, our children, our grandchildren, and all future generations of Michiganders.
Lighthouses are the part of our history that is escaping us right at this moment. The buildings are either falling down or on the edge of falling down. The last lighthouse keepers and the last people that lived here are now at the end of their lifespan. If we're going to catch this history, now is the time. We have to catch it now or it'll be gone.
For more information about the preservation of lighthouses in Michigan, please call the Michigan Lighthouse Project at 248-625-3607. For a VHS copy of this program, contact Equity Studios at 616-651-1686. This has been a Michigan Avenue documentary.